Something that I've witnessed coming into, my background's working as a corporate accountant and coming into small business, something that I've witnessed is that most people don't start a business thinking, they just start because they're like, I love this thing, or I'm helping people, or I'm really good at this, so I'm going to start charging people. And they're not set up with this skill set of understanding business finances or even really understanding business, like at a more macro level. If we're being honest, a lot of people don't understand marketing, don't understand the holistically how to, I guess, run a business. But the big thing that I'm really passionate about is the money side. And so what I see is that a lot of very clever people get started, are doing their thing, but they don't really understand the number side of it. They don't really understand. They might get some tax bills come in and be like, I didn't know that was coming in, or I didn't know it was going to be that big. And I mean, let's be honest, it's not really that sexy. Like the money side is, if you're like, I'm gonna go and do a cool ad, or I'm gonna go on social media, that is it's far more fun. It's where a lot of entrepreneurs tend to go. But there's so much power in the discipline of actually understanding your money. And what people don't understand is that the discipline actually buys you more freedom. Because when you understand what's going on, then you've got more confidence and capacity to scale, to hire, to, take time off, whatever that might be.
Hello, my loves, and welcome to Create Your Life. My name is Simone Lea, and I am your host. And I am so excited to be here with you guys today because today I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Clare Wood, who is a business wealth coach and also a fully qualified accountant who's practiced in accounting for years, on the subject of what you actually need to focus on in business. Now, I loved this conversation with Clare. Clare is a wealth of knowledge, and she very much has that belief that I have, that we need to actually have the energetics in place, but also the strategies and the systems and the physical 3D practices and awarenesses that are actually going to move our business forward. So, we had a phenomenal conversation today, talking all things, having an understanding of what to focus on in your business, whether you should be, going and seeing an accountant, or whether you should be just meditating and hoping for the best, or what sort of structures you need to have in place. So it was a phenomenal conversation, and I am so excited for you guys to listen and to watch this one. Hello, my loves, and welcome to Create Your Life. My name is Simone Lea, and I am your host. And I am so excited to be here with you guys today because today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you to Clare Wood, who is a business profit coach. And we are going to be talking all things that you actually need to focus on in business. So I am super pumped about this episode. Claire's also an accountant, so she's going to be coming in literally the things you need to look at as a business profit coach of actually increasing your revenue and your profit. So I'm totally pumped to have you here, Clare. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Simone, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's super exciting. I'm so ready to dive into this subject. But let's start with, what does creating a life you love mean to you?
Oh, I think for me, like it's funny because I'm a money coach, people often think that I'm really materialistic or, that's the big focus for me. And yes, money is important, but to me, creating a life that you love is really about being fulfilled and happy in whatever that looks like for you. So some of my clients are like, I just want to work 3 days a week and make enough to get by. Other people are, oh my gosh, I want to have 5 investment properties. Other people are like, I want to, completely take a whole year off and travel around Australia. And I think that finding what your ideal life is really just completely dependent on what your priorities are, what's right for you. And also that's going to be different in different phases of your life. So I think it's really just about finding what lights you up and having freedom and happiness to do exactly what it is that you want.
I literally love that. Thank you. And I love that you also mentioned that it does look different to everybody. And like some people are just happy to like, make 80K to 100K a year and travel around the world in a van, while there are other people who are like, I need to be 1 million a month. Like, so, yeah, let's dive in. So, the topic is obviously what you really need to focus on in business. And this topic has come around because lately I've seen a lot of people in my life who are very much like making all of this money, but they don't necessarily have the awareness of how to manage that money and not spend the exact same amount that they earned. And so in business, obviously keeping track of certain things is what's going to help you to A, grow, B, increase your revenue, C, obviously live the life that you want. So what is it that in your opinion and that you're seeing that people really need to focus on in business?
Something that I've witnessed coming into, my background's working as a corporate accountant and coming into small business, something that I've witnessed is that most people don't start a business thinking, they just start because they're like, I love this thing, or I'm helping people, or I'm really good at this, so I'm going to start charging people. And they're not set up with this skill set of understanding business finances or even really understanding business, like at a more macro level. If we're being honest, a lot of people don't understand marketing, don't understand the holistically how to, I guess, run a business. But the big thing that I'm really passionate about is the money side. And so what I see is that a lot of very clever people get started, are doing their thing, but they don't really understand the number side of it. They don't really understand. They might get some tax bills come in and be like, I didn't know that was coming in, or I didn't know it was going to be that big. And I mean, let's be honest, it's not really that sexy. Like the money side is, if you're like, I'm gonna go and do a cool ad, or I'm gonna go on social media, that is it's far more fun. It's where a lot of entrepreneurs tend to go. But there's so much power in the discipline of actually understanding your money. And what people don't understand is that the discipline actually buys you more freedom. Because when you understand what's going on, then you've got more confidence and capacity to scale, to hire, to, take time off, whatever that might be. But my experience, I'm coming up to 10 years in December of being a business profit coach, is that the great majority of business owners simply don't understand their money. They don't know how to read their financial reports, and they don't really even see the importance of it. And that's what my whole purpose, passion, mission is empowering business owners to say, oh my gosh, this is important, and giving them tools, systems that they can become empowered with their money without being overwhelmed.
Yeah, I literally love that. I absolutely 100% agree with everything you've just said. And even looking at it, sorry, this is a tiny tangent, but even looking at it from an energetic perspective, if you don't know where your finances are and where money's going in and out, you genuinely do just feel less supported and less safe. And I don't actually think people realize, like, okay, yeah, it might be painful to look at your finances in the beginning when like there's not huge profit, but it actually feels so much better and so much safer to know where you're at. So I literally love that you also bring that up as well, not with the energetic side of it, but saying how like just having that understanding gives you more freedom and it gives you
Mm.
more choices because you can make choices that go kind of in alignment with your goals if you know where you're currently at. So I literally love that. For the people who are sitting at home going, this is me, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how this works, and I'm scared of it. Can you run us through kind of like, obviously there's different ways to do this, like they can literally just go and start working with a bookkeeper tomorrow and outsource the whole lot and just take the whole lot off their hands. But that can also seem daunting because then you have to admit you don't know. Or should people be, getting hold of a couple of accounting books and reading those? Like, what sort of thing would you recommend if someone's like, I'm so at the beginning of this, but I'm making money in my business and I'm not where, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So, look, the first thing I would say is you need to, I guess, understand because the reality is, talking about energy. energy, mindset, money, it's all so tightly interwoven. And I'm such a big believer in like the energetics around money and, the way that you're treating, like one of the things I say to people, how are you treating money? Like you want money to be good to you. Are you being good to money? Um, but taking a step back from that, it's really understanding like where are you actually at in your relationship with money. So, for example, if you were like, do you know what? I feel pretty neutral towards it, but I just need to uplevel my confidence around it. You might be at a different stage of your journey to someone who is absolutely shit scared of money, who doesn't even want to look at it, who gets anxiety even thinking about it. So first of all, I want you to assess like where am I at on that journey? Do you have a relative amount of knowledge? Do you have absolutely no knowledge? Does it create fear and anxiety? Because if you are at that like place where you feel sick even thinking about it, I wouldn't recommend that you dive all on in because I think that like if you go and grab a profit textbook or an accounting textbook, you're probably going to vomit. Um, this is coming from someone that spent a lot of years studying it. Like I would say start small. Start by going, okay, you know what? I'm going to look at my bank balance every second day. I'm going to every month I'm going to start to understand a little bit more about my finances. I'm going to run a report. If you're a little bit further on your journey, then I would say the best thing you can do is start to have regular meetings with your accountant. That is the number one. If you take nothing else away from this conversation, every single month, sit down with your accountant at the end of the month, review your profit and loss from the month before. Your accountant will be able to explain to you, they'll run it for you, they'll be able to explain what it all means, and they'll be able to tell you how much tax you need to put aside, how much superannuation you need to put aside. They will just really put you into a place where you start to understand what's going on. I'm also an author. I've written a book called Intentional Profit. And a lot of people say to me, it's a really great starting point. Like if I kind of weave energy and mindset in with it. So it's quite light. It's not a big, crazy accounting textbook, but it definitely covers off the foundations of understanding the basics of finance. I didn't mean to go straight into a plug about my book there, but the reason is someone actually wrote me an Amazon review which said, this looks like it's written for kindergarten for year four students or something. And I'm like, yeah, that was the intention. This was never meant to be an accounting textbook. It was meant to be, hey, if you're new to managing your money, here's a great place to get started. Here's some of the things that I would do. It's very practical. It's got clear actions at the end of each chapter. And it's a really, really fantastic starting point. But look, wherever you're at on your journey, the big thing I would just say to you is start. If you want to take it to the next level, start running your reports regularly. If you want to take it even to the next level, start educating yourself about accounting. This is not something you can avoid as a business owner. I don't care how good your accountant is. This is something every single business owner has to understand if you want to grow and if you don't want to end up in a lot of legal problems, realistically. A lot of people forget, they're like, oh, I'll just say that my accountant never told me. I'm like, the ATO or the tax office in whatever country you're in, they don't care. You'll still have to pay the money back. If one of your suppliers, if you overcommit to an expense that you can't afford, tough. They're probably still going to recover that money from you. And there can be quite serious implications. For example, if you end up bankrupt, you might not be able to set up another business again for 7 years. So you really, really, really want to be confident and empowered when it comes to your money.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So what about like if someone was listening to this and they were like, yeah, cool, I'm just going to bypass this. Like I'm just going to like outsource everything to like zero and talk to my accountant once a month. Is that enough?
Okay, there's a number of reasons why I say don't do this. Okay, firstly, unfortunately, most people's accountants suck. Like, I'm just gonna just throw it out there. And and also, it's not that they suck necessarily, but they're not going to be proactively coming forward with information to you. It's not, a lot of times people go, oh, my accountant never told me about that. I'm like, did you ask them? And they're like, no. And I'm like, your accountant probably assumes that you knew you needed to pay tax. Like, they didn't know they needed to spell it out for you. So you have to understand the right questions to ask. It reminds me of back when I was in my corporate days. I used to work as a commercial manager. So I was basically like a business coach in big companies. And we used to hire all these external marketing companies. And they'd come in and they'd wow us, they'd buy us gifts. And at the time, I'd be like, wow, look how much money they're making me. Since I've come into small business land and I've actually learned, oh, that's what that means. That's what actually happens here. That's what that conversion is. I feel like such an idiot because they were pulling the wool over our eyes big time. And because we didn't know the right questions to ask, and we just thought, oh, I've got a marketing agency, we'll flick it to them. We just thought they were taking care of it all. And this is the thing that I've realized with money as well, is a lot of people think, oh, my accountant will take care of it. No, you're legally liable. And also, like, your accountant doesn't know your business like you do. The other thing that I would say, as someone who was an accountant for many years, we make mistakes. I have picked up some serious mistakes from my accountants over the years to the tune of thousands of dollars, like thousands of dollars. And most people are just like, including my husband, he goes, I just signed off the BAS. I'm like, did you check it? He goes, no. I'm like, honey, like we need to go and cross-check the numbers. So I have to do that for him. But you want to really be in the nitty-gritty. Cross-check the numbers because accountants make mistakes. And there's one more factor that's not a very nice one, but I want to throw it in there as well. Accountants also can be dodgy, unfortunately. And when I'm doing my launches around my course about finances, I've actually gone and dug up all of the accountants that have stolen from their clients that have, and you might think, oh, that would never happen to me, or my accountant would never do that. I bet you all these people thought that too. Guy Sebastian, his manager stole from him. Like this is what allegedly. I'm not sure how that all played out. Allegedly. Um, um, but the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't matter, how safe or trustworthy you think someone is. You need to protect your money. And I can't say this enough, no matter how much you want to outsource it, no matter how good you think your accountant is, please, please, please be in charge of it. It's your hard-earned dollars.
I 100% agree with this, but sometimes I think that I'm just a little bit OCD. So I literally love that you said this because like it's one of those things, like I also am a big reader and learner, and I think that the quality of the questions you ask someone is going to determine the response that you get from them. And as you said, your accountant, they might not know your goals, they might not know where you're headed, they might not know your business like you do. So if you're not asking the right questions, they're not going to know to give you that answer. And I also have had stuff with an accountant where I wanted to set something up one way and he said no, and I trusted him, and it like cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or even when I was buying my first couple of investment properties, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. It took me 5 brokers to find one that could see my vision. And then you've got to go, all right, now I also need a solicitor who can see the vision. Now I also need an accountant that can see the vision. And I say to people all the time, you need to be granular enough to know A, where you're going, but B, whether you're bringing the right people with you. Because if I had listened to the first, second, third, or fourth broker, those first 2 houses I got, I wouldn't have been able to get them. I might have got the first one, but the structure wouldn't have been there for the second one. And if I hadn't listened to my intuition, it's one of the biggest business mistakes I've made. If I hadn't have listened to my intuition with that thing with my accountant who I'd had for years, he knew where I was going. He knew what I wanted to do. And I literally said to him, I really want to set this up in this way. I really want to set this up in this way. He's like, no, you don't need to. No, you don't need to. No, you don't need to. And my whole gut was like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But I listened to him because he's my accountant that I've had for 10 years. And that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I love hearing that someone with your background and education is also saying, do the research, be in charge of your own future, and know what you need to know to get you where you need to go. Because I don't think it's necessarily about you knowing the nitty gritty of all the laws and you knowing the nitty gritty of accounting, but you do need to know enough to get the right people around you. So I literally love that you have said all of that. Really, really appreciate it. So what do you think in relation to setting up structures and things like that are? Should people be auditioning accountants? Should people be, just as you said, trusting, or as I did, trusting the accountant you've had for 10 years? If someone's really serious about building a business that's really profitable and changing their life and maybe getting some investments and all of that sort of stuff, what do you think that process should be for the team around them?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love this question. Look, there's a couple of different layers to it. Like, one of the things people always say to me, who's your accountant? And I'll share it, but I'm like, I just want you to remember, just because this accountant's right for me doesn't mean it's the right accountant for you. It's one of those, such an easy mistake that people make. They think, oh, because that person's using them, it's going to work for me. And I'm like, no, you're going to have different needs to me. You're going to communicate with someone on a different level. And I think that that's the first thing to bear in mind. People could reach out to you, Simone, or me, get our account, and then they're like, no, not the right fit for me. And that's fine. You need to find out who's right for you at the stage of business that you're at. I might also outgrow my accountant when I reach a certain point in time and say, okay, you've served me really well for this chapter. Now I'm moving into, wealth expansion. I'm going to need some different advice. So I think that's something important to bear in mind as well, is we're going to all need different things from our accountant. But finding a great accountant is incredibly important. The next hire that I always recommend is to get a bookkeeper. And I personally have a separate bookkeeper to my accountant. There's arguments for and against, but usually a bookkeeper inside an accounting firm is going to be a lot more expensive than if you engage someone directly. But again, you need to do what's right for you. There's also a whole range of other advisors that you might have. You might have a broker, a financial advisor. Again, depending on the stage of business, you might need personalized tax advice from a tax expert. But getting the right people around you is imperative. And the second thing that I would say is getting your systems and structure in place, as you mentioned just before. I know this is your jam. So one of the key things that I would say, firstly, always have a separate account for your business. Even if you're a sole trader, people are like, what? I'm a sole trader. Separate your business out. Start acting now like this is going to be the empire that I build. I'd put money in and pull money out as a separate entity. That way you can actually start to understand the business in and of its own right as an entity. If it's all woven in with you, if you're like, money comes in, money goes out, whatever, you are never going to know how much money you're actually making. So that would be my first thing. Always set up a separate account. And then always set up a separate account for I have basically, it's like tax and super. So I have a separate account that when money comes in, we put money across in there, and no one can see what I'm doing because you're listening on a podcast, but I am doing the motion of putting money into a separate account. You put money aside so that when the tax bill rolls around, it's not like, oh, it's like, yeah, cool, I've got the cash there. Just paid my super. And again, the money's just all sitting there in an account. That is one of the best practices that you can implement, is siphoning off money. I just say, think of it that it's not your money. It's not my money. It just goes straight over there for the government or future me. I'm just putting it straight aside. So that's a couple of things. And then the last system, structure, whatever, that I would set up is money meetings. And that is where you sit down and have carved out time to look at your business finances. And that's a whole other topic.
I literally love that. I'm like, oh, let's go into it. Come on, we've got time. Let's do the first 2-hour episode of our jokes. But no,
Well, we can absolutely go into it if that's helpful to you and your audience.
No, I think all of this is amazing. So the audience is also spiritual entrepreneurs as well. This is an episode for the soul-led entrepreneurs. And I know we've talked a lot about like more along the things that you actually have to be aware of in a practical sense. How much do you think the energetics is going to come into play and people's beliefs and all of that sort of stuff when it does come to them setting up these structures and having an understanding of their business financially?
So something I work with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs and a lot of creatives as well. And I've noticed that there's so many stories that come up like, oh, I just trust that the money will come and I don't need to, I don't want to micromanage it because it stops the flow. There's all of these stories that I hear that people have, which I'm gonna be on, like I'm a bit woo. I'm a bit spiritual as well. But I'm like, to be honest, I think that you're just avoiding because you don't want to dive into it. That's my belief. I'm like, you're scared of what you might find. You're scared to actually dive in and have these processes and practices in place. And no matter how spiritually inclined you are, we still live in a 3D world. You can't go, oh, I won't worry about tax. You can go to jail if you don't pay tax. Like we need to worry about these things. We need to make sure that we've got enough money to, pay our obligations, to pay our team as we start to scale. And so again, I really just want people to be very aware of the stories that they're creating around it when they start to come on this journey, because you will find that a lot of resistance comes up. You're like, I don't need to worry about this. I just manifest it, whatever the story might be. And it's not to take away from manifestation. I love manifestation. But what I want to say is that it needs to be in conjunction with the practical 3D world in which we live. So the first thing I'd say, just be aware. Like, what's the stories? Why am I resisting this? And it's not your intuition saying, no, I shouldn't do that. It's your fear that's popping up. It's your fear of diving into this. So, yeah, just to be aware of that.
I love this. Totally love the whole thing. Yeah, I think it's also really interesting as well. Like, I think when it's something that we care about, we can tend to be a little bit different than if we don't care about it. So, for
Mm.
example, when it comes to this, is just a weird example, but when they talk about actors and they say you're going to go through 99 auditions before you get a job. So 99 no's before you get a yes. That's what they say to actors in this is what I remember hearing when I was younger. I'm not an actor. But I remember hearing that. But yet in business, so many people are like, oh, I'm just going to manifest the money and that's just going to happen. And it's like, no, this is like a business. Like maybe ask 99 people for the sale or for the business. Like it, as you said, it is a 3D world. So as much as it's great to all be in on the manifestation and the alignment, there still needs to be some action to keep that business moving forward. And as we said earlier, when you actually have those structures into place where you are managing your money, you actually feel safer and get further, I believe, because you have that awareness of where you're at. So I literally love that you said this as well. Totally love it. So, what does a business like? What do you do? Like, what do you do as a human? How does your role in businesses work?
Yeah, so look, I've got a couple of different ways that I work with my clients. The majority of my revenue still comes from one-on-one coaching, which I love. Like people keep going, I bet you can't wait to get away from one-on-one. I'm like, that's my favorite thing I do. I shouldn't say favorite. I love all the work that I do, but I really, really enjoy working one-on-one. So sometimes I'm literally running profit and loss reports with my clients. We have Google Sheets, we've got spreadsheets, we're doing analysis. I'm like, okay, let me draw a little graph for you. Let me show you what that looks like. I am right in the nitty-gritty with my clients and I don't just go, let's run a report. It's like, okay, the real reason that I use it is to tell the story. Okay, here's what the data is telling us. Okay, how does this translate into your marketing? How does this translate into your messaging? What offer are we going to pull together? How are we going to price things? What are we going to launch next? So most of the work I actually do, people are often surprised, isn't to do with spreadsheets. That's where we start. but the work is actually on holistic business growth. I work in the one-on-one space. I work, mostly with multi 6 and 7 figure business owners, helping them to get to that next level in a profitable way. So where I don't want to just have the sexy, oh, I make $1 million a year. It's like, are you actually making money so that you can have the life that you desire? I also have a mastermind, which is sort of for that people that are, again, probably at a similar level, but people who are wanting more the community. We've got a beautiful group. We cheer each other on. We have two in-person retreats a year. And again, it's for people of that sort of scaling stage that are wanting a community around them. And then I have my courses, I've got my book, I do speaking. There's a lot I do. I do VIP days. So there's lots of different ways that I work with my clients, but the core focus is always the same. It's using finances to build a profit-led business. And that includes the energetics of money, it includes mindset, it includes manifestation, it includes marketing, it includes messaging. And I think, one of the big things that I'm doing with my brand at the moment is saying it's beyond the numbers. I think people just think Claire's the spreadsheet girl. It's like the spreadsheeting is the foundation to leverage what we're going to do in the rest of your business. So, yeah, I think that for anyone, like, start with your numbers. And again, what's it telling me? I have every single month, I have a KPI report and we have a look and we go, okay, how many followers have I got? How many people's on my email list? What's this telling me? Let's go and have a look. Which emails got the most opened? Like data is it's your breadcrumbs to your success. And so that's the big thing that I'd say, like, use your numbers because it's telling you a story.
Yeah.
There's messages in there that you can be leveraging from.
Yeah. I love all of this. Back in the day when I first started business consulting, this is where I would start as well. I was like, all right, we've got to look at the whole business. And it really surprised me to see people who are out there doing business coaching who weren't actually paying attention to where the business was actually at. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's like different types of business coaching. But to me, to be successful in business, knowing your numbers is so, so important. So I literally love, to me, I'm like, you're not a business wealth coach. You're literally a business coach. Like, this is literally what people should be doing with all of their business coaches, because everything is going to be let off the numbers. As you said, things like your different KPIs, whether or not that's profit and loss related, you can translate knowing your KPIs in terms of sales, how many calls you've had, how much growth you've had, as you said, on the different channels, how much outreach you've done to try and build yourself and your brand, how many podcasts you've been on, all of that sort of stuff. That's all numbers based. Like, you can track your progress by looking at those numbers. And I think, to me, that's just so, so important, and something that I do feel is a little bit missing these days in business coaching. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of, people are just starting with, oh, you just do this marketing and you're good. But that doesn't necessarily set the client up for success. So I literally love this. So what I'm kind of getting at here, and what I'm hearing from you, is that with you, if you were to start working with a client, the first thing you'd be looking at is the finances and the numbers of the business. And then from there, you'd be using that to chart the path forward into growth. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love this. Yeah, this is amazing. This is exactly what I want everybody to hear. Like, this is, guys, pay attention. Like, this is literally so good. And also, if you need a business wealth coach, go and see Claire. So, yeah, if people were wanting to get started on this journey and they are potentially even at a point where they don't necessarily have the revenue to hire a coach or a consultant, what would you kind of suggest that they start with? I know we've said like just getting more informed in yourself. I know we've said get yourself an accountant and see them once a month. Are there other things people can do to really start to, like, would you say, all right, read one book a year and you're on the path? Or would you be kind of like, look, just put aside 20 minutes a day to listen to a podcast on finance or wealth? Or, how would you recommend people go about getting started?
Yeah, the best thing you can do is just educate yourself. I can't even tell you. I've got a whole bookshelf of books on personal finance and on business finance and on money mindset. Like you cannot read enough. And the cool thing is too, like when you are reading different people's perspectives, you can then take, okay, that really resonated for me, or actually that doesn't sit right with me. That's not something I'm gonna take forward on my journey, but I really enjoyed this part of the book or the learning or the lesson. Podcasts again, what a fabulous way to be able to learn, like to be able to listen to people and take, okay, I'm going to do 3 actions off the back of that. I also recommend to follow people online. Just go and follow people's Instagram accounts, see the messages they're sharing. Again, yes, cool, that resonates. Okay, I'm going to implement that. Would be what I would definitely say. But books are a fantastic way to start. If you aren't in a position yet to invest in a mentor or a program or whatever it might be, just start learning what you can.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. And another thing that I was thinking of as well is before you were also saying about structure and that sort of thing. And I thought it was really interesting as well because I also start that way. I think you said something along the lines of act as though the business is already the business you want it to be. Like take it that seriously. And I totally also agree with that. Like I really think you should be thinking about where you could be in 5 years and setting up as much of that now. So I love that. How important do you think it is to obviously everyone's like, I want to make $1 million a year and buy a couple of houses. How important do you think it is to even educate yourself on the structures required to do that? Like in terms of, having an understanding of how to buy an investment property if that's where you want to go, and whether or not you need to set yourself up. Like, should people just be going and seeing a solicitor and being like, okay, just tell me what to do. I want to have a company and I want to buy a couple of houses, and not knowing, the difference between a trust or a foundation or a PTY LTD, or what's your opinion on even that planning for the future and setting yourself up for that now? How can people go about looking at that in those early stages?
Again, just surrounding yourself with the right people. I think, if I was looking to hire an accountant, I'd be following multiple people online. I'd sign up for their emails. I would ask for recommendations. I would have conversations and I'd be like, okay, is this person, do they have the right vibe? Does the way they talk make sense to me? Like, that's what I'd be doing. And another big thing that I always do, get multiple opinions, ask advice from different people. The first time that I need to like, I don't know, get my bathroom fixed or something, a plumber will come in. I'm like, my tap leaks. I don't know, tap leak. And then he goes, oh, it looks like your whatever's broken. It'll be $500, fix it. And I go, okay, cool. Then I go and get another quote. And then I'm like, hey, I think that my seal's leaking. Can you please have a look? And they'll be like, no, it's not your seal, it's this. And I'll go, oh, okay, cool. He's got a different opinion. And he goes, it'll be $250. Cool. Then I go to a third person. And then have found, at the moment we're building a house. And the first person we spoke to, I'm like, house, water, build. And now I'm like, no, the setback is this much. And we can actually put decking. Like, because I've spoken to so many people, I've got so many different opinions, and I've gone and done my own research. I can really confidently have these conversations now. And I've actually had builders who are like, check and they go, oh, you're right. And I'm like, it's because I've gone and done the research and educated myself. But at the start, we're all going to be, you know, a bit clueless. Exhibit A, me with the tap. I'm like, okay, cool. Glad I didn't pay the first guy $500 for something that actually wasn't the core problem. Ask different people. And then the more and more that you learn, then I go and research. I might go ask ChatGPT, go and do some research on Google. And then I go, okay, great. Now I know a little bit more about that particular topic. So that's the other thing that I would say is do your research
Yeah. Yeah.
and surround yourself by experts. Please don't just find one person and be like, oh, that person tells me to do this, so I'm going to do everything they say. Because, you know, they might not be telling you the right thing. As you sort of alluded to with your first accountant, your life would have gone on a very different trajectory if you hadn't sort of questioned it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was me knowing to question it. How
Yeah.
many people out there who just would have listened and been like, okay, I'm just going to do what they say. and then
Yeah.
find that themselves set back. And I even know that
Yeah.
with like investing and talking to a lot of people is they get stopped out of investing in more property because of the fact that they just haven't
Mm,
set their structures up right in the first place. So absolutely agree with everything you've said around getting education and all of that sort of stuff, but also going and getting quotes from different people or talk to different
mm,
people, recommendations from different people on different people. I
mm,
think that's all so important and such a big part of what I like to harp on about, so to speak, is having that self awareness, and that self responsibility. And it might seem like, oh, okay, I can't trust, the first opinion, but it's also just having that responsibility of knowing, okay, well, this is where I want to go. Let's find the way that's going to get me there, because the first
mm,
person's way, as you've said, might not be the way for me. It might be the
100%.
second or third person's way. Or, like you said, the first person might sell you the completely different product to what you actually need, but you don't know yet. So, I literally completely love all of this. One other thing that I'd love to know is sometimes you hear people saying, run your life as you would run your business. And they're talking about in terms of their finances and tracking their finances and profit and losses. And I think I remember hearing this years and years ago when I was really, really young, like probably under 22, 23 years old. And I was like, that sounds very serious. And I am not adult enough for that. I cannot run my life like I run a business. But realistically, to me, it actually, now that I'm a little bit, obviously a bit older than that, it actually feels so much more safer, as we've said, and spacious to actually know where everything's at in my life and in my business. Would you recommend a lot of the stuff that you would talk about with your clients in regards to their finances and their beliefs and all of that sort of stuff? Would you recommend that they do apply that to their actual lives?
Yeah, look, I use the exact systems that I teach in my course. I'm not a personal financial advisor. I'm not allowed to give personal financial advice. But I use the exact same tools in my personal life. I literally load my personal finances into Zero. I reconcile it in there. We run a report every month. My cash flow forecast. So my husband runs a business as well. We do his business, my business, and our personal life. We use the exact same systems in our personal life that we do in the business. And every Friday we have a money meeting it's not about business. It's just like our money meeting about life. And we do an hour every Friday. We are looking at our investments. We are looking at life decisions. We're looking at our insurance, superannuation, our kids' future, our holidays. We carve out literally time to work on our personal finances. And it's funny actually, I did see this relationship coach the other day, and he said you should run your relationship like a business and have relationship meetings and planning meetings and goal setting. And I was like, I'd never thought of that, but that's actually kind of cool as well.
Oh, I literally love that. I do think a lot of this applies to everywhere and having that
Mm,
self-awareness and that self-responsibility. I think it's amazing. So, yeah,
mm.
imagine like I love that you can apply that to your relationships as well as your everything business and your life. So, yeah, literally love it. Okay, one more question before we go into other things. But what about a big buzzword thing that's coming up on Instagram at the moment is nervous system regulation for your capacity to hold on to wealth. All those
Mm,
coaches that are like, I was making 5K a month and then I regulated my nervous system and now I make 30K a month.
mhm.
How are your thoughts about all of this?
Yeah, look, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, at the end of the day, like when you hear things like this, it's not like go and meditate and suddenly you'll make more money. I think that this is the misconception around a lot of this. It doesn't work like that. And I think that it's a little bit misleading when coaches position it like that. What there's a whole bunch of things that are happening on a neurological and subconscious level when we are in a different frequency. So an example of this is this coach, her name's Tracy Goodwin, I believe it is, and she teaches about the voice. And she talks about how there's really subtle little things that happen in your voice when you are incredibly like, yes, I'm at this. Like when you sell, and she's like, you wouldn't even it's not detectable to the conscious ear. But if I like was saying something and like, hey, you should buy from me, you could, your subconscious mind can hear the lack of, I don't know what the right word is, but the lack of confidence around the sales process. So that I truly believe that there's all this stuff going on multiple levels. So I guess the thing that I would say, do I believe that regulating your nervous system helps you make more money? Absolutely. I do. But I don't think that you meditate and get calm and then suddenly money appears out of nowhere. I think that what's happening is that on a neurological level, that you're more confident and therefore you're more likely to shop in your marketing. And when you do shop, you're not like, oh, please buy from me. You don't have that energy about you. You're like, I'm magnetic, I'm confident, people are drawn into me. And so, yes, you're naturally going to make more money as a subset of that. I do believe in manifestation and bringing things into your world, but I also believe a lot of it is the practical side of it, which is just that I set a goal, I took action towards the goal. I'm thinking about the goal all the time because I'm manifesting, manifesting, manifesting. Like I'm looking here, I've got my vision board in front of me. And I'm like, because it's there, I am seeing it, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, right, I want to get that done. What am I doing towards that? What's the action I'm taking towards that? And so, therefore, you are taking action. And like you said before, Simone, like when people are wanting to, oh, I'm energetically attracting, it's like you still need to take action. You can't go, I'm going to manifest running a marathon. Get out and run. Like you've still got to take the steps to make it happen. So I do believe in nervous system regulation, but I do want to say to people, be a little bit worried that don't think, oh, when I'm calm, I just make more money. I personally think that you still have to do the things.
Yes, 100%. I absolutely agree. And I literally love this because I'm like, I feel like we have the same brain in a lot of ways. Great. I'm so glad people are hearing this because I agree with you. Like, I definitely think your nervous system plays a huge role in how you show up in life. But you can do all the nervous system regulation in the world. If you don't take the action, the business isn't going to grow. You know,
100%.
and to
Yeah.
me that's why it's so important that people understand business but also energetics. They do actually
Mm.
understand how they're feeling, and is their nervous system regulated, are they vibrationally coming across, as you said, with confidence and conviction, or are they coming across, really in a lack way of, you need to buy from me or I'm not going to be able to pay my rent next week, or are they coming from a, even a place of, okay, really meek, like they don't actually even believe that they can help you, or, what energy coming from when you talk to people. And so I think it is really important to have a regulated nervous system and be aware of the healthy habits that will help you in your life and business. But it is so much also about doing the action. So I literally love all of this. So, if someone was wanting to get started in understanding their finances, and I know we've covered a lot of this in very broad ways, but what do you think the top three things that they could start doing today would be? And it's okay if you repeat them back to, like, number one is definitely get an accountant and see them once a month. But yeah, so whatever the answers are, that's totally cool. What do you
Yeah.
think the top three things would be if someone wanted to track their finances?
To your point, this is a bit of a recap, but number one,
Yeah.
money meetings. Start scheduling in regular time to sit down and look at your money, minimum once a month. I personally do two every single week, one on a Monday, one on a Friday, which is looking at my personal finances, but carve out time to really focus in on your money. Number two, get a fantastic accountant and meet with them, I would say every single month. That would be my recommendation. And number three, educate yourself around your money. Go read books, listen to podcasts, just immerse yourself in knowledge because the more that you learn, the more you can earn.
Yeah. I literally love all of those. And I just want to point out as well for the audience, for anyone who might be like, 2 meetings a week, it's one of those things where you've kind of got to think about your business of, are you working in your business or on your business? Because if you don't have the time to schedule in that money meeting at least once or twice a week, I'd also be looking at where is your time going? Because looking at your finances and actually working on your business and not in your business is literally, it needs to happen. You need to be working on the business. So I literally love that you've even said 2 meetings a week, because I know people at home are going to be like, I don't even have time for 1 meeting a week. How is she doing two? But it's a different mindset. Like, you have to actually be thinking, I'm a business owner now. I can't just be working in the business. I have to work on the business as well. So I literally love that you said at least minimum of 1 money meeting a week. So love, love, love. Now, what is some recommended resources you can recommend? I'd love to hear, firstly, something that isn't your product, but then also I'd love you to talk more about your book.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think you need to find resources that resonate for you and what you're looking for. So, in the space of personal finances, I love, if you're Australian based, I love the Barefoot Investor. There's also a guy called Ramit. His vibe's a little bit divisive, but I think that he's got some good tips there. Um, some people really like profit first. For me, not my jam. I have a bit of a different take on that. Just because I think that every business is different, and I think that the framework taught in there is quite structured, and I just don't think that it applies to every single business. But go and read it. Maybe it's the book for you. And yeah, and my book, Intentional Profit, which, like I said, it's my book. If you compare my book to Profit First, it's a very easy read. Like, everyone says to me, "Oh, it's really easy." Like, it's a very short, easy read. It's foundational. It's getting the basics in place. It's structures. It's really, really practical. So it's a really great place to start if you're kind of new to the world of money and finances. I'm trying to think if there's any other resources. And just, if you've got any accountants that you want to follow online, follow them, listen to their tips, learn, sign up for their emails, do all the things.
Yep. I love all of this. And I love as well, sorry, I keep going on and saying the things I love and what you're saying, that your book is a foundation. Because to me, setting the foundation of whatever you're doing, whether you're building a house, you need a solid foundation. Whether you're trying to run a marathon, you need a solid foundation on the way you're going to do that. When you're in business, you also need a solid foundation. So I love that your book actually provides that foundation that's going to help people to start on the path to where they actually want to go in their business. So I literally love that. I will link that for the show so everyone will have access to that. But where can people find you if they want to follow you and connect with you?
Probably the two big places, my podcast, the Clare Wood podcast, or on Instagram, I'm just at Clare, CLARE _Wood _coach. So make sure it's got no I and it's just Wood, not Woods. But come say hi on Instagram. My website's also just clarewood.com. So it's pretty easy. But come connect with me, and come say hi. Let me know you had to listen to the podcast episode. Love to have a chat in the DMs.
Love this. And thank you so much for being here. It has been so amazing hearing from someone who does have such a solid background in finance and accounting, and has that holistic view with business as well, of just being like, okay, well, this is going to connect to this, this is going to connect to this, this is going to connect to this, but let's get the foundation and the base happening first, which is your finances. So I have loved having you here. I know the audience will have loved this episode. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.